Episode 3 of The Last of Us Season 2 opens with a powerful scene of grief, as Tommy mourns his brother Joel's death, asking him to say hello to Sarah, Joel's late daughter. It's a heartbreaking reminder that the series, as we knew it, has changed forever. The pacing decisions this episode were, it felt like the show itself was unsure of its direction after Joel's death. Many fears raised after Episode 2 came true, as is a heavily Ellie-centric episode. Bella Ramsey carries much of the narrative alone, and while they certainly try, there are struggles with portraying Ellie's overwhelming grief and growing recklessness. Episode 3 focuses heavily on setup and world building, much like the season premiere, which makes the pacing feel inconsistent. Although important groundwork is being laid for future storylines, the flow feels disrupted compared to earlier episodes. Compared to the emotional third episode of Season 1, Long Time, this episode doesn't leave quite the same lasting impact. That earlier chapter was a defining moment, establishing The Last of Us as a series capable of transcending its video game roots. In contrast, Season 2, Episode 3 seems to stall a bit, despite the season's short episode count. It's surprising that the show would spend so much time in a holding pattern given how much story remains. Bella Ramsey's performance is mixed here. They are clearly trying to show Ellie's grief and internal conflict, but Ramsey's portrayal sometimes buries Ellie's emotions so deeply that it becomes difficult to connect with her. In scenes with Isabella Merced's Dina, Ramsey's performance improves noticeably, suggesting that Ellie works better with someone to bounce off emotionally. Dina brings some needed lightness and humanity to the episode, hinting at the bond that could ultimately pull Ellie back from the brink. Still, the evolution of Ellie's character makes sense. She remains sardonic and determined, but the playful side we loved in Season 1 is much dimmer. One wishes the show had spent more time with her lighter side before Joel's death to make this darker period even more impactful. Additionally, it was clear since the end of Episode 2 that Ellie was headed to Seattle, making the attempts at building suspense around that decision feel unnecessary. The episode also introduces new factions like the WLF militia and a cult-like group, but they are introduced and dispatched so quickly that there's little time to feel their impact. The pacing paradox continues. The story feels both rushed and slow, as if the show is struggling to balance emotional development with world expansion. The Last of Us seems reluctant to move too quickly on emotional arcs, yet hesitant to slow down enough to flesh out its new world. The emotional weight of Episode 3 largely comes from the sadness of the situations themselves, rather than standout performances. Ellie is clearly hiding her grief, but because Ramsey internalizes so much, the connection to Joel and their history sometimes feels distant. Might be intentional, emphasizing that while Joel and Ellie were close, Ellie never fully knew him. Uncovering Joel's full story could deeply affect Ellie's journey. A larger question arises about whether Ellie can still be saved. Catherine O'Hara's character, Gail, makes provocative remarks suggesting that Joel didn't fundamentally change Ellie. She always had darkness and light inside her. Scenes with Dina hint that if Ellie can find something new to fight for, she might still reclaim hope. Meanwhile, the emerging threats from the WLF militia and other groups hint at looming conflict, pulling the action outside of Jackson and setting up bigger battles ahead. Ultimately, this episode suggests that Season 2 must be viewed on its own terms. It will never recapture the magic of Season 1, and maybe it shouldn't try. The Last of Us Season 2 is a series in search of its identity, but that doesn't mean it can't still be great. Thank you for watching.